Families left with uncertainty for months as a contract between Duet and Douglas County is hung in the balance.
First Alert 6's Sydney Babb attended this morning's Douglas County Commission meeting. So, Sydney, what should families relying on Duet know tonight?
Brian and Aaron, the county will cut ties with Duet in 6 months unless the organization meets a list of specific conditions. Many families packed that meeting this morning demanding answers about the financial issues that led to those layoffs of employees at Duet. And they also spoke and made it clear that they're fully on board with these conditions and working toward more transparency.
Laura McCormick has a special bond with her sister Jenny.
She's been a part of all the important events in my life, my kids' lives.
Jenny's brother John is her guardian, and Duet is her lifeline, providing housing and medical assistance to people with developmental disabilities.
Jenny was born with Down syndrome.
Jenny's family has spent weeks worried ever since Duet's financial problems surfaced. Their new agency director now working to straighten it all out for families like Jenny's.
I think there were circumstances predating me, those things that are under investigation, that had a serious impact on the organization's operations.
Earlier this month, families with Duet found out about layoffs to the company. Now those financial difficulties, which are still unclear, leading to a resolution in the county commission meeting on Tuesday to end the contract between Duet and the county.
The final vote approved those and then struck the provision lowering our funding.
Unless Duet follows these conditions within the next 6 months, including providing audit reports, restructuring programs to improve transparency and financial oversight, minimizing client service disruption, and clear budgeting and spending justification. Rather than lowering their funding to $500,000, they'll continue to operate with $890,000 per fiscal year. But Malone and families say that budget hasn't increased for a while.
It's just outrageous that the funding level has remained the same over decades. It has never increased. That's absurd.
Funding for care that Laura says isn't negotiable for families who use Duet.
Once a child receiving services in the public schools graduates, like at 21, there is nothing. I really would like to see continued support, increasing support. And I also want people held accountable. I don't understand what's going on, but I would like accountability.
Accountability for Duet's finances that keeps her sister's health and living situation on track.
Sydney, let's talk about that accountability. For the financial investigation, do you know where it stands tonight?
The commission asked Malone, the new agency director, questions about the investigation, and she couldn't give any specifics. Now, during the meeting, County Attorney Don Klein was also in attendance. He told the commission that his office determined a financial audit of Duet would be necessary, and the state is working on that now. In the newsroom, I'm Sydney Babb, First Alert 6.
Thanks for that report, Sydney.